For 1,000 years, a stone wall was the ultimate expression of power. A knight's castle was his fortress, his kingdom in miniature, the very foundation of his authority. From behind its impenetrable walls, a single lord could defy an entire army, even a king. But then came a new sound, a low, earth-shaking roar, followed by the whistle of a stone or iron sphere that cared nothing for chivalry or noble bloodlines. This is the story of the Great Siege Cannon, the God of Breach. In this video, we will uncover how this monstrous invention didn't just tear down stone walls. It tore down the entire political structure of the feudal world, making the defiant knight and his castle obsolete. Part 1. The Age of Impenetrable Walls. Before the cannon, the castle was queen. Medieval defensive architecture had reached a point of near perfection. High curtain walls, massive gatehouses, with murder holes, concentric rings of defense, and towering keeps. They were masterpieces of military engineering. Traditional siege weapons like the trebuchet or the catapult were powerful, but they lacked precision and raw force. They could lob heavy stones over walls, causing damage and terror within. But actually breaching a thick, well-built stone wall was an incredibly difficult and time-consuming task. A siege was a battle of attrition, often lasting for months, sometimes years. The most common path to victory was not assault, but starvation. This gave immense power to the landed nobility. A rebellious duke or baron, well stocked with food and water, could confidently lock his gates and wait out his king's army, knowing his walls would hold. The castle was the ultimate symbol of a knight's independence and power. Part 2. The Noisy Toys, the first cannons. The first cannons, or bombards, that appeared in the 14th century did little to change this reality. They were crude, dangerous, and wildly inaccurate. Forged from bars of iron bound together like a barrel, they were prone to cracking or exploding, often killing their own crews. They fired crudely shaped stone balls that had poor aerodynamics and often shattered on impact. They were more effective as psychological weapons. Their deafening roar could certainly frighten defenders than as actual wall breakers. They took hours to load and reposition. Castle architects simply responded by making the walls even thicker. For a time, it seemed that the reign of the castle would continue unchallenged. But the science of destruction was rapidly advancing. Part 3. The Monsters of Bronze and Iron. By the mid-15th century, the noisy toys had evolved into monsters. The art of casting large objects in bronze, once used for church bells, was now applied to cannons. These new weapons were more reliable and could handle much more powerful gunpowder charges, and they no longer fired stone. They fired massive, solid iron cannonballs. An iron ball, being much denser than stone, carried far more kinetic energy. It didn't just chip away at a wall, it smashed through it with brutal pulverizing force. This gave rise to the Great Siege Cannon's legendary behemoths, with names like Mons Meg in Scotland or Doulagrit in Flanders. These were titans of metal, some weighing over 15 tons. Transporting them to a siege was a monumental logistical challenge, requiring hundreds of oxen and men. But the true revolution was not just in size, but in science. Military engineers learned the art of artillery. They understood that to breach a wall, you didn't just lob projectiles at it. You had to concentrate your fire on a single low point, relentlessly pounding the same spot hour after hour, day after day, until the structural integrity of the stone failed. This new terrifying potential of the siege cannon was about to be unleashed upon the greatest city in the world, in an event that would change history forever. Part 4. The Fall of Constantinople, 1453. The Theodosian Walls of Constantinople were the stuff of legend. For over 1,000 years, this triple line of fortifications had repelled every army that had dared to attack it. It was by all accounts impregnable. But in 1453, the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II arrived with a new kind of army, and at its heart was an artillery train unlike anything the world had ever seen. The star of his collection was the Great Bombard, a monster cannon engineered by a man named Urban. It was over 27 feet long and could fire a 1,200-pound stone ball over a mile. For 53 days, the Ottoman cannons relentlessly pounded the ancient walls. The sound of the bombardment was said to be heard from miles away, a constant earth-shaking roar that shattered the morale of the defenders. The cannons fired day and night, methodically concentrating their fire on the weakest sections of the wall. The defenders would work through the night to repair the breaches with rubble and barrels of earth, but it was a hopeless task. The cannons were simply too powerful. Finally, on May 29th, the impregnable walls crumbled. The Janissaries poured through the breach, and the greatest city of Christendom fell. The news sent a seismic shock across Europe. The fall of Constantinople was not just a military victory, it was a technological one. It was the definitive, terrifying proof that no wall on earth could stand against the power of the great cannon. The age of the castle was over. The siege cannon was more than a weapon. It was a political tool of immense power. It destroyed the knight's ultimate strategic advantage, his fortified home. A rebellious lord could no longer lock his gates and defy his king. The king could simply arrive with his artillery train and blast those gates into dust. This new technology accelerated the centralization of power in the hands of the monarchs, the only ones who could afford to build and maintain these expensive siege trains. The semi-independent warrior lord of the feudal age was now completely at the mercy of his king. His castle had become his trap. This story of how a single invention could demolish the very foundation of political power is a critical chapter in our series. If you were captivated by the roar of these historical monsters, show your support by hitting the like button. And to ensure you are there for the final cultural death blows to the age of chivalry, subscribe to The Knight's Journey and ring the notification bell, because history proves time and again that even the strongest stone walls are no match for a new, powerful